All right, I am currently with my good friend Gina Chato, and she was listening to a recent television network, and we're on our way after Roman Catholic Mass, and after an awesome lunch, talking about the Magi. So you heard from a preacher probably on the channel like Daystar, basically that essentially the Magi were great rulers, that there were not just three of them, that there were at least many Magi on their way. What else did you?
I mean, that's what I remember. I may be using the wrong terminology, but that they were, great, wealthy. Not yet wealthy, and I don't have the proper words, but they weren't, they were big time. And when they traveled with great entourages, gigantic entourages.
Yeah.
This is what I remember. I may not have it all right.
Yeah.
As that they came, it took like 2 years, I think, for them to come to Bethlehem. But then they were saying, which is true in one of the Gospels, does say that the Magi came to the house.
Yes.
Should not say they came to in Bethlehem to the house. So we don't really know exactly. And the baby, the way there's a Greek word or something that they use to refer to the baby, the child, which really refers to toddler. This Greek word refers to toddler. And yes, let's see what else did he say. I think that's all.
Yeah, so what's really going on here is the text of the Gospel of Matthew is the only one to mention the Magi. Now, the Magi or Magoi refers to, it could refer to many things. It's the Greek word for magician, but it also could refer possibly to a class in Persia who were kingmakers. These were people who were a massive political powerhouse in the Medo-Persian Empire. Now, what's interesting about that interpretation is the fact that the Babylonians were under Persian control, right? We learn about this from the book of Daniel. And what ends up happening, right, from the time of Daniel is there's probably a memory from the time of Daniel of the prophecy of the coming of the Mashiach, the coming of the Messiah. Well, what's unique about the Gospel of Matthew is these people are right. According to the text, you don't hear that there were three wise men. We hear of three gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, which probably is a reference to the divinity of Jesus, probably with the frankincense. The myrrh, probably a prediction of his passion, the gold to his kingship. But what's unique is the Bible doesn't mention three. Tradition references three later on in texts in, I believe, the 3rd or 4th century AD. That doesn't mean that there weren't three major Magi tasked with bringing the gifts, though. And what's unique to me is the fact that the Magi go directly to King Herod, a very real historical figure whom we know quite a bit about, actually. Friend of Antony, the infamous Antony who married Cleopatra Antony, who was in a little bit of trouble at the same time with Caesar Augustus. Augustus said of Herod, you would be better to be Herod's swine than Herod's son because of how many sons Herod put to death. And Herod even put to death one of his wives, named Mariame. So why is that interesting? Because when the Magi show up and they get direction to go to Bethlehem, you're right, the reference is to a house. And we find out in the Gospel of Matthew that Herod kills male children 2 years and younger in Bethlehem, which means that by the time the Magi set out, it was about 2 years since the appearance of the star. So that's what leads more conservative Bible commentators who take this, like I do, as historically reliable, to say that probably the Magi appear, like you're saying, when the baby's a toddler, or when the child's a toddler, rather. Now, that being said, I think it's very powerful and very moving that great seers within the Western tradition, such as Blessed Catherine Ann Emmerich and others, do describe three wise men, actually give various names for them and give incredible detail. And it is interesting that 12 wise men appear in the Orthodox tradition, not three.
Really?
So, once again, but keep in mind with the 12 disciples of Jesus, there is an inner ring of three, isn't there? You have Peter, James, and John on the Mount of Transfiguration in Gethsemane. Wow. So even if there are more Magi showing up, it is possible that you have an inner circle of three. And so we shouldn't dismiss tradition simply because it's tradition. Now, like I said, there are various interpretations as are they Medo-Persian or are they Babylonian? One theory given is that they are Nabatean, and the Nabatean civilization's capital was Petra in Jordan. And according to one passage in the Old Testament, the passage is escaping me, Petra even has eschatological meaning for the last times, the last days. Really? That perhaps a remnant of Israel will escape to Petra and be saved. Petra is also the location in The Last Crusade, the Indiana Jones movie where the Holy Grail is. So, yeah.
You should see, that he said the Greek word for child, and he used the word, the Greek word.
Yeah. Not off the top of my head, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's toddler. And it wouldn't surprise me, it wouldn't surprise me that Joseph would do work in Bethlehem. Frankly, Joseph is from the royal line of David. He probably has family living in Bethlehem. There was one movie adaptation, which I enjoyed. It was created by the BBC. It's not all that biblically accurate in some areas, and some areas it's good. But it shows Joseph and Mary going to Bethlehem, and Joseph thinks he's going to stay with family initially. So he knocks on the door, and they say, oh, it's Cousin Joey. Hey, Cousin Joey, how you doing, Cousin Joey? What are you going to do? And they see that Mary's with him. And they've all heard the gossip about Mary, that Mary's pregnant. There's some uncertainty as to what's gone on. And so they basically say, Joseph, you're always welcome. She's not welcome here. Door after door. And Joseph makes the brave decision. Joseph makes the husbandly decision to stand by his wife. And that's what precipitates them looking for, of course, the place for lodging, and then there's no room for them in the inn or no place in the guest room, depending on the translation. I still think that there was no room in the inn, if you ask me.
Okay, but listen, why would he stay in Bethlehem for 2 years?
Honestly, I think Nazareth was a bit of a place where you were persona non grata after the whole with the child. You know, I mean, I think it's Psalm 69 or 68. Keep in mind the numbering's off between Catholic and Protestant Bibles, where there is a description of this person who is the laughing stock of the drunkards. All people in the town ridicule him. The person sits in sackcloth and ashes. The children of my mother, or kinsmen of my mother, doesn't need to be literalistic, depending on your interpretation, are alienating him. There's probably a prophecy of the childhood of Jesus in Nazareth. I think a lot of people were aware of what happened with Mary, but were not aware of the angelic visitation or didn't believe the angelic visitation. And this led to Jesus being the literal black sheep in the town.
Outcast again.
Yeah, and, the all prophet is not without honor except in his own country and among his own relatives and in his own house.
But this is so awesome, so hidden in the Bible, so hidden that it's probably overlooked 1,000,000 times. They came to the house. And I read that a long time ago. I says, oh, the house. So they left the manger, they left the stable, but you would think, why 2 years? Then, okay, wait a minute. So for 2 years, they lived in peace in Bethlehem? There was no persecution by Herod? When Joseph got the
dream, can you imagine? What's interesting is, can you imagine if they did spend 2 years in Bethlehem, house of bread? Can you imagine the courage of, depending on how much Mary knew or didn't know? Yeah, I'm going to listen to Joseph on this one. We're going to get out of here. Oh, it's peaceful. It's quiet. We finally found a niche for ourselves, and then to realize that imminently disaster is going to come without any sign of disaster coming, right? We know that the attack on Bethlehem came as a surprise. The people were surprised.
Right. Bye, Noreen. See you. I don't know, maybe tomorrow. I don't know.
Love you.